Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Narrative Dissonance on Unsafe Space. I'm Carter Laren, and I'm joined by Alex Maselli, / Alex of all trades.
Yes.
Juliet was going to join, but she had to bail at the last moment. We are moving to a different time, so I know we might be confusing some people. There's a lot of changes happening at Unsafe Space, so just bear with us, I guess, is all. Let's see. Oh, hey, I'll Fight You Naked found us. Hey, I'll Fight You Naked. We are transitioning to Fridays at this time. We're going to run through some news items. It's going to be a little bit free form. Oh, hey, Richard Petz. He says he enjoyed the latest abstractions. Thank you. And he gives us a super chat. So yeah, we're gonna do that. We are still on Utreon. No, not on Utreon. Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube. I think those are the main three, unless I'm forgetting one. Also Twitter, _unsafe space. Hopefully the regular account, the old account, should be resurrected. It was supposed to start happening this week. I'll Fight You Naked says, Carter, grow a beard. I can't. I mean, I can grow like some stubble, but I wasn't gifted with big manly beards. So so that's all you got. Let's see what else. Book club. Our last book club was actually hosted by Richard Petz, who's here in chat. It was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. If you missed it, you can check it out. It's still online. The next one is National Divorce by Tom Woods. It will be January 8th. It'll be hosted by Keith Bissett. And yeah, we moved it to January, so you've got, you can relax over the holidays and read and watch Die Hard or whatever.
I'm actually almost done with the book.
Already. See, Alex, you're gonna forget it. I'm not starting it yet because I will. You have a good memory. I don't have. Yeah. I need to read it the night before. And then let's see. February 5th is Light by M. John Harrison, hosted by Hooligan, who I asked if he wants me to use his real name, and I haven't heard back yet, but we'll see. And then it looks like we're going to have one in March. We don't have the exact date, but Thomas St. Thomas is going to be discussing The Weirdest People in the World by Joseph Henrich. And it's a fascinating, I haven't read it yet, but it seems really fascinating based on his summary. He did a review of it. In fact, hold on, I'm gonna pull up this review in case anyone wants to see it. Howdy, Tree Goblin. Okay. So here is his review. The book is called Western Weirdos, or actually it's called The Weirdest People in the World. His review is called Western Weirdos, and he reviews this book, and it's a fascinating, the whole premise is a lot of psychological research was done based on people in the West. Like that was the sample size, like the sample domain was people in the West. And we made a lot of assumptions about psychology based on that. And it turns out that some of these are wrong. And actually people outside of the West have, like, people in the West have kind of weird minds, and people outside the West have, in general, obviously this is all statistics, general different kind of mindsets. And so it sounds really fascinating to me. It could actually upend a whole bunch of thinking in interesting ways. So I always like stuff like that. So that's sometime in March.
I already had kind of like a thing about especially sociology studies, because they mostly like survey people who are students at colleges, and it's like, even for like being like making comments about people in the West, that's still a very narrow demographic of people.
Yes.
Like, So like I already had a problem with that. I was like, a lot of graduate studies just don't apply, like they don't go out further than just this is what people in college think.
Yeah. Another thing I've noticed with a lot of sociology studies is that often and psychology studies, is often there's hidden premises in the questions and the setup that the researcher isn't even aware of because of their own biases. So like, and I'm not talking about weird racial biases, although maybe that too. But I'm meaning like, I remember seeing a survey question once that I knew what it was supposed to be doing. Oh, Beverly's here. I'll pull her in. Hey,
Hello.
Beverly.
What's up?
Wow. How you doing?
I'm good. It's been a while. It's been a busy day too. I'm tired.
Beverly's like an actual reporter now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm working for mainstream media these days.
Yeah. How's the adrenochrome?
Well, I don't even know if you know, Carter, with because like Alex and Juliet know because of it, but the paper I worked for 157 years shut down after I started, like 2 weeks after I started.
No, I talked to you after you started and you were working there saving it. It shut down after I talked to you?
I don't remember when I had talked to you about it. So it was completely shut down. It was totally gone. And then a new paper opened up within like by the next week that the guy who was trying to buy it, so he from a nearby paper, so he like just kind of absorbed us, and so we're like changed from a daily to a weekly, and it was a weird month for me.
Is life easier at a weekly?
It is overall, but like we're going to be doing online daily stuff too though, so that's going to be annoying for my procrastination stuff though, because then I'm like writing everything at 2 a.m. and waiting till like the last minute, but
I know how that is since we started doing the abstract, like Friday nights are like,
yeah, and you're like, can someone proofread this? No, I'm going to bed now.
I know. I'm the only one of that. Well, Alex is on the West Coast.
Yeah,
and everyone else is on the East Coast. I'm like, hey, I know it's midnight there, but on a Friday night, can you proofread stuff? Like, no.
That's what I was gonna say, like you should do is if you're gonna publish it on Friday night or whenever, though, have it done earlier and then give us time to be able to proofread it beforehand. Like have it done Thursday night and then you give us like 24 hours to
no shit. I mean, that's an obvious thing to say.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it is because you're not doing it. So that's why I feel like it needs to be
completely separate. That's completely separate. Me not doing it is completely separate from the obvious thing.
Because I don't think you thought of it.
Yeah, last week it was Thanksgiving was my excuse last week, and it did actually cut into my time. But this week, I don't know. It's hard. Anyway, let's do stories. I know Alex has one that I'm curious about, so I want to start with you because you have a news story.
Yeah, so
right. We know you're useless, Beverly.
I could tell you about stuff that's going around my town.
For me, everything that's been going on has been related to the Maricopa election and like general response to it. So what I know is, so I've been reading a bunch of documents lately because there's a lot of rumor going around, and there was a lot of rumor back in 2020 too, which Twitter had this thing in 2020.
2020 also? I just wanted
to
clarify. Okay,
yes, 2020 also, you're right. Okay. So back in 2020 on like there was this rumor that certain counties and certain vote centers were given Sharpies to voters, which and then they weren't being read possibly, and like Twitter and a bunch of other,
they're giving the wrong writing instruments.
Yes, exactly. And Twitter and a bunch of other like narrative control agencies were basically saying that
she's getting worked up over that.
No, I'm like, because I used my inhaler last night. My throat.
I remember that.
Yeah. But
wait,
like,
can you wait before you even do? I can see where you're going, but I just want to pause. Can you give people the like super high level of where's Maricopa County? Why does it matter? What's going on?
Okay, so Maricopa County is the most populous county in Arizona. So all of our state and federal elections are completely dependent on how Maricopa votes in the majority. Like it doesn't matter if every other county votes red. If Maricopa votes blue, the results are blue. That's essentially what it is. We are the sixth largest city in the country, I think. That's Phoenix, which is in Maricopa County, but Maricopa County itself includes a bunch of other like smaller cities, suburban cities that are right up against Phoenix. So, and like you could just easily cross it. Like it's just so fast how you will cross from one city to the other. So Maricopa has a lot of consolidated things going on, like with how the government works, because we're all connected so closely. And that includes how we do elections.
So there's an incentive to own that county, because if you own the county, you own the state.
Yes, exactly. So Phoenix is is like the bigger city center in it, but there's a bunch of population also within Maricopa. So it's not just Phoenix; it's the entire county that is like pivotal to elections here. So, like as I was saying, like back in 2020. They were giving Sharpies in some voting centers in Maricopa County, and I think in Tucson as well. But like a lot of mainstream narrative control places were fact checking that and saying that giving Sharpies was fine. The thing is, though, is that I'm here. I was here then too, and I had a ballot in my hand. And this before it came out that people were saying that they were getting Sharpies, and before the narrative, I actually had a conversation about what writing implement I was supposed to be using, because I had started using a blue ballpoint pen, and at the top of the ballot it said use a black ballpoint pen. In my election ballot materials, it said use a blue or black ballpoint pen. So I did switch to a black ballpoint pen, but so like I was like, I literally, and I had a conversation with someone about it, because it was like, well, can we use a blue one or not? Like, I don't know. Like, so I remember that. I remember having that conversation before any of that came out. So like, I know for a fact that it said use a black ballpoint pen on the ballot. And that's for Maricopa. And by then, Maricopa County's election was consolidated, meaning that the entire thing was controlled even beyond districts by just Maricopa County's, offices. So this year, a lot of people were like, I don't want to do early voting. I don't believe in it. Like that, and it's not just Republicans who believe that. There were some Democrats and a lot of libertarians, unaffiliated voters like myself, who don't believe that it's necessarily smart. The thing is, though, is that like I said, I'm unaffiliated and I am on the early voter registry. It sends it to me, and this makes it somewhat look like I might be a Democrat. Like, it makes it look like, what is she? I don't know. Like, so my plan was to fill out my ballot at home, bring it into a voting location, which is legally allowed according to Arizona and Maricopa County.
So you just fill it at home and you bring it in and drop it off.
Yes, exactly. So I went the day of, I woke up and I wasn't ready to go straight to a voting location, which, by the way, in Maricopa County, you can go to any voting location. That is not true in other states. It's not necessarily true in other counties either. But in Maricopa County, since 2019, late 2019, you're able to go to any voting location. And the reason why is because this is what happened in 2016. I go to work at 6 a.m. And that at the time I was going into the office. I lived quite a ways away from my office, even though I was technically still in Phoenix.
And you got there at 6 a.m.
At 6 a.m., which means I woke up at 4 a.m. Oh. So day of the election in 2016, I wake up and get ready like I normally do, went to a voting location by my house. I was like the first person there because I absolutely had to be at the office at 6 a.m. So yeah, like that's a pain in the ass for a lot of voters in Arizona because of the fact that a lot of people live like in Gilbert and work in Phoenix, and you're talking about like maybe an hour of traffic to get to a voting location.
Wow, okay.
So that's one of the reasons why they said anyone can vote anywhere.
Sure.
It was somewhat of a reasonable response for that problem because a lot of people felt like they were not able to vote because of that reason, even though legally in the state of Arizona, employers are required to give their employees time to go to a voting location. Not a lot of voters know that though, but it is actually a legal requirement here. But they changed it. I don't necessarily know like how I feel like from a practical standpoint. I get it, but it has resulted in some problems in this election because you can go to any voting location, but we have a digital e-poll book called Site Book, I believe is what it's called. And that's where our voter registration is. And that's how we sign the poll book is this digital thing. And the poll workers manual for Maricopa County has nothing in it about how to check a voter out. So if
they sign it, like when do they get checked in? By signing?
But yes, so when they check in, that's them signing the poll book essentially.
But they check in prior to voting?
Yes, they do. And
why is there such a difference between, like, why is there an extra step in the process? Why wouldn't there just be a line and then you check in and vote all at once?
They don't print your ballot until you check in. And I don't know why that's the process, but it is. Like you check in, they print your ballot, you vote, and you put it in the tabulator or box 3.
Okay.
And the problem though is that like if you needed to spoil your ballot, you would go to a poll worker and together you would mark off the timestamp for the tabulator to read it, write spoil on it or whatever, and then recheck in. And if it said like, oh, they already got their ballot, you would say you click that they spoiled it. They could only do that twice at one location. Third time they had to vote provisional. That's according to everything I've read. The problem is that like I also read that if you were on the early ballot registry, you were supposed to vote provisional. That's according to Arizona law, but Maricopa's instructions said that that they didn't get a provisional if it wasn't shown that their vote was received by Maricopa County and counted. And I was like, why is there this discrepancy here? Like, I don't get that. Right. But then, the poll workers manual has nothing about how to check someone out if they need to go to a different location. Nothing.
And that's the thing I was reading, like that's the thing that Carrie Lake was saying she had people tell her, which was like people would go somewhere, check in, the line was too long, they had to leave or whatever, so they would leave and try and go somewhere else. There was no way to check out and they would go somewhere else and they wouldn't let them check in because they were checked in at some other polling location.
Yeah. So and like why would they have to leave? Like, okay, because first of all, tabulators were not working at several locations.
Right.
So which Maricopa County admitted to day of. And poll observers have sworn to, and so have poll workers and voters have all sworn to this to the AG of Arizona. So like everyone agrees that some tabulators, now the number of those tabulators not working is in contention, but everybody agrees some tabulators were not working. So that means that some people ended up being checked out, ended up being checked in without being checked out because even poll workers have sworn to the AG that they were not trained to check people out. Maricopa
And
County.
so there's no way to rectify this, though, because once you've checked in, we don't know if you actually put a ballot in or not. Like,
No,
right?
we don't. See, that's the thing. What we should have, if you count to the number of check-ins versus the number of ballots, you should have more check-ins than you have ballots at this point. That's the only way that it makes sense, right?
But you don't know whose.
Yes, exactly. You have no idea. I know. So, like, Maricopa County has...
Disconnecting these so you can print ballots on demand seems like it creates a lot of problems that are totally unnecessary.
Yes, exactly. See, I mean, there probably is a way to do it well, but for one thing, this is not it. Like, clearly they, like, even if you don't want to, like, read into its malintent, the problem is that it's like, well, it was clearly a clusterfuck. And
right.
That alone meant people were disenfranchised. So that's my...
Use blue Sharpie. This is also a clusterfuck, just right at the top of it.
So, okay, so in this latest thing, this is all I really know about the Arizona one, because I mean, I just wrote a couple things in abstract a couple weeks, but I haven't been paying close attention. So Katie Hobbs was actually her job when she was running for governor against Kari Lake. Katie Hobbs is the Democrat. Kari Lake is the Republican. Katie Hobbs, for those of you who don't know, is the one that was so arrogant and smug she wouldn't debate Kari.
She didn't even debate her primary.
Right, yeah, she wouldn't debate
opposition.
anyone.
She didn't debate anybody.
Is it smugness or just that she knows that she's not actually good at it and she would lose?
I don't know, but she didn't debate. But her job was to be, I forget the exact title. Maybe you remember, Alex, but she's in charge of elections. Yeah, but there was like that made her like her other role was chief of voting or chief of elections or something. Like she is the person in charge of the elections.
Yes.
So that's who she was. And so she was in charge of her own election.
Mm-hmm.
And Kari suggested, I feel like when I say Kari, it's like she's my buddy. I don't know why. Ms. Lake suggested that
I was doing that yesterday with Ryan Reynolds.
She suggested, like, hey, maybe you should recuse yourself because look, even if you win, it looks pretty bad. You're in charge. Why not recuse yourself? Oh no, we don't need to do that. We're leftists. So she didn't recuse herself. And she won by like 0.6% of the vote. Now, 0.5% of the vote automatically triggers a recount. Now, 0.6% doesn't automatically trigger a recount, but there's all of the machinations and shenanigans that Alex is explaining, all these problems happening where, the Lake campaign was saying, maybe we should look into this anyway. And my understanding is they asked Maricopa County for some transparency, which I thought they were legally required to give with respect to polling data. And I don't know if they ever, I didn't follow up. I don't know if they ever gave it, but there was a deadline for certifying the results. All I know is that everyone is saying that Katie Hobbs won and Kari Lake is an election denier. So I don't know. I don't know what the status is after that.
To my problem with the whole election denial thing is that, like, first of all, the last 451 degrees said that totally you can question an election. It's completely legally allowed. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to, and saying that you shouldn't be able to suggests the idea that they're perfect and there's no way. There
are places where you can't check the election. Those are places like Libya. Like there are like Russia. You probably can't question the integrity of the election in Russia.
Yeah,
like that's a no.
But like,
but here you should be able to question it because that's Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, like, I think anything is fair game. Questioning elections, like whoever wins, I don't care. Sure. But like, you cannot be the party of people who say that democracy is dying, and then when a bunch of disenfranchised voters come out of the woods calling for their rights in democracy, just go fuck you, and like shove them away.
Well, it's not dying here because we're in.
No, here it was fine because we won. Like, no, you can't do that without it being extreme cognitive dissonance and highly like just unethical. So to me, I'm like, come on, like anyone's allowed to question anything, and especially when there's this many problems. Like I said, even if you weren't reading malintent into it, you could just claim that it was so messed up that we need to redo. Like, well, I don't even want to recount. I don't give a shit. Let's not recount it. Let's just redo it. I hate election day. I hate it. I find it incredibly fucking stressful. But I will do it again if we solve these problems.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. I don't even. This is kind of similar to the example of the 2020 election where I mean I didn't really care about Trump like a lot of people were like really upset that Trump lost and blah blah. So I wasn't in that camp of like, oh my God, Trump lost. But I had no reason. I actually had no reason to really care or question the election. I was like, oh, I guess a lot of people like Sleepy Joe, and like he sat there with his COVID mask on in his mom's basement or whatever and still won. Like I could clearly see the media was carrying water for him. There was all this other influence happening outside of actually the machinations of the election itself or the mechanics of the election itself. So I wouldn't have questioned anything until the moment someone questioned something, and then the entire establishment shut them down and said, "You're not allowed to question this election. It's perfect." Blah, blah, blah. When 4 years ago, Hillary was saying the exact same things. The election was stolen from me. Blah 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 blah. Like, all right, here we are. You're not allowed to question. Well, that makes you want to question. And the same thing is happening in Arizona right now, where I mean, I'm not an Arizona resident, but I look at it and I go, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe Katie Hobbs legitimately won. But if that's the case, first of all, wouldn't she have recused herself from the beginning if there was not any plans to do anything nefarious? Second of all, wouldn't she? I mean, look, if I were Katie, well, imagine Katie Hobbs.
If you were Katie Hobbs, you would be saying, she can't get through a sentence.
Well, how's that? If I were Katie Hobbs, I would say, and I were confident that I won legitimately. So that's the second thing. If I was Katie Hobbs and I was confident of my victory, I would say, sure, I know the automatic threshold is 0.5. Let's do a recount and investigation at 0.6. It's close enough. It's no skin off my back. It's transparency. It shows that I'm committed to the process. And if I actually lost, then sure, I'll own up to it, but I'm confident that I actually won. The fact that none of that is happening and that she's just going on her merry way and saying, election denier. I mean, that enough is reason to suspect that something is, rotten in Denmark.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing.
Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix. Here's the thing too, is that like, again, even if it wasn't like a deliberate move on anyone's part to make everything hard for actual day of election voters, if after the fact you learn that all of these problems showed up, and then you decided, well, I won, so I don't really give a crap. Like, that's like that. Even then, like, it's like, well, that makes you look bad too. That you don't care. Like, and by the way, if she's the one running this election and it was this bad, what do we think about her competence as a governor?
Well, you're making some assumptions, Alex. This election might have gone exactly according to plan.
I know. See, that's the thing.
She might be very good at running elections.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that like, it's like they try to, like, a lot of people do this thing. I feel like Hillary Clinton did it with her emails where they're like, oh, it wasn't malintent, it was just incompetence. And my mind is like, I immediately revolt at that defense, because I'm like, that's not any better. It's not any better. I don't care if you had good intention or bad intention. The result is awful. That's the part that I care about.
I just lose secrets and I'm doltish. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And as someone, I mean, my first job out of college was as a defense contractor, and I had a top secret clearance and a compartmentalized clearance and had to go through lots of, extensive background checks and stuff. And they didn't, I couldn't have claimed like, oh, oops, I brought this data out of the skiff on a thumb drive because oops. Like that's not it, we had to sit through we had to sit through videos about, people who were tried for treason for like mistakenly bringing printouts home and stuff. I mean, it was like, they regular normies who have to go through the process of accessing classified information have really drilled into them how much they will be punished for either intentional or unintentional violations of the classification. And so it's so rich to have someone like Hillary. That bothered me so much. I really hated her. I mean, I already didn't like her because I was old enough to remember, Vince Foster being found with blood running uphill in a carpet fibers on him in the park, and the park police being in charge of that. I mean, I'm old enough to remember like all the Clinton scandals, so I already wasn't a big fan of Hillary. But the arrogance and the elitism in her responses to all that. What does it even matter? That was her response to Benghazi. What does it even matter anymore? She mocks the people complaining about her emails. The woman set up her own email server with her, like outside of. She set up a circumvention network. She set up a network to circumvent national security into her bathroom in New York. That's what she did. And like, I guess you could say, oops, it's incompetence. Like, that's some awesome incompetence, lady.
I know. It's
but
very
we're not supposed to
deliberate
care. We're not supposed to care.
There. I know. Like, see, that's the thing. Like, I was 100% never going to vote for Hillary Clinton in the first place. So, like, it didn't, like, even when the email thing came out, I'm like, oh, just more of her bullshit. And like, I was not at all surprised. And the fact that she basically got a pass through incompetence, that was like the first time I really saw that happen. And then it kept happening. I keep seeing it happen. And every single time it happens that they use incompetence as a shield, I'm like, stop it. Like,
can you imagine you need open heart surgery and you're reviewing the doctor who's about to do it, and you're like, wait a minute, you killed this last patient, and he's like, no, that was just incompetence. Oh, all right, that's all good, man.
Or even just like you like look at anyone in any job that's like life or death or something like that, just someone driving you, and they're like, right. Oh yeah, don't worry, like when I ran over those pedestrians, that was just incompetence.
Yeah, like, I'm not evil, that was just incompetence.
Like, no, that's not an excuse. And I'm so sick of hearing it.
Also, it's may not... I rule you now?
Yeah, really. I know. Like to me, I'm sort of like, oh, so you're saying incompetence is an excuse to give you more power to fail more? Like, I don't like. Why would
that's
that
how
make
bureaucracies work. See, I think people that people like Bernie Sanders who never had an actual job, like they grow up around bureaucracies, or if they had a job, then they just get used to government work. That's how it works in the government for bureaucracies. Like you fail upwards. That's how. Mm-hmm. And actually, some large corporations, it works like that too. So
yeah, it does. I know, I've seen that too.
Yeah, there we go. Well,
huge organizations of any kind, public or private, people fail up.
Yeah. Are there any? Just swinging back to Maricopa really quickly before we move on. Is there any like outcome? Is it over at this point for Kari Lake? Like I haven't noticed. It seems like everything's certified and it's done, or is she still challenging? Are there avenues? Like what's going on?
The future challenge, the future of it is that they certified on Monday, but the future is people suing, because like Kari Lake can sue Abe the one who was up for AG, he can sue, especially like he was below like I think the 0.5 threshold anyway. But the problem is like the whole like, oh, counties have to certify their results and everything. A couple of counties know for a fact that everything is dependent on Maricopa. Like they know that. So like Mojave and Cochise were like, the boards there were like, I don't really want to certify right now because of what happened in Maricopa. Like, I don't think this is on the up and up. And Katie Hobbs's office sent them threatening letters saying that they would be charged with dereliction of duties as election board members for not certifying by the due date.
Make me governor or you're in trouble.
Yeah, and it's like she's like, you're required to certify. And it's like, so, and you don't have any discretion. And I was like, and everyone's like, wait a minute, so certification is just a ceremony? There's like boards just do it?
Right.
Is that what?
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
Then why even wait for it at that point? If it means nothing, then it doesn't need to happen at all. Like if you like, what's the point of the process?
If the people in charge don't have the discretion to decide when to certify or not, then they're not in charge.
Exactly.
So it's not really a certification. Yeah.
So it's like, oh, it's a ceremony. Well, guess what? Ceremonies are bunk and they don't need to happen. Like,
right.
I don't know. Like,
okay, so it's still going on, sort of, but
yes.
But
Lawsuits
Katie's
are
moving
going
forward with her thing.
Yeah.
She's governor-elect and she's going to move forward. And CNN will tell us that we're all election deniers for asking questions.
Yeah. To me, I don't think we need a recount. I think we need an actual redo of the election because of revote. Because of the fact that a lot of people said that they were not able to vote at all. Like they didn't even do provisionals. So, and I talked to the county several times, by the way, usually through Twitter, so it's public. And they said that people who checked in at a secondary location, who went to a secondary location and hadn't been checked out, would be given a provisional ballot. Which honestly, that was a little like.
But again, how will they ever know that ballot's valid? Because there's no way to correlate whether or not the checkout should have happened.
Exactly. And not only that, but the law literally says if they're listed on more than one location sign-in, the provisional ballot will not be counted. It says it.
So they're just giving the provisional ballot like a security blanket.
Yeah.
This will make you feel better. We're not counting anything, but here you go.
Maricopa County voters can track their ballots to see whether or not they've been counted.
Oh, okay.
And Maricopa County voters have been saying my vote's not counted, like a lot of them. And then there are the people who said I never even got a ballot in my hands. So it's like that to me, those two pieces of information. If it's enough people, like, and to me, enough people is like, I don't know, like 5,000, maybe not even. It's enough to do a re-election.
The whole margin's like 20. Someone was just asking in chat. I think the margin's like 20K or something around there.
It is, but there were a couple of smaller elections on the ballot that were even closer than that, and that's why I'm putting the threshold much lower than that.
Yeah, there were. You were just saying there were some elections that were below the 0.5, which should have triggered an automatic.
Yeah, it's a recount for those parts of the ballot, but not others.
I see. We have the ballot, but we're only counting this part of it.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I say that it needs, like, that's enough people though who had their entire ballot, their entire vote not counted, that need to be able to be counted. So that means we need to redo this. And
that's unlikely, right?
That it's very unlikely. They're probably not going to do it. And to me, that's a sign that they don't actually give a shit about democracy. They're lying when they say they do.
Well, no, they never do. I was going to say leftists don't care, but I don't even think Republicans usually care about. I mean, most politicians don't really care about democracy. They care about power. That's why they're in their jobs that they're in. And,
Yeah.
they care about democracy the
voice it.
same way Stalin cares about the proletariat.
The thing is, though, is that when they say
They get
that
stuck in the tank wheels.
Yeah, like you and I know this and everything, but there's a lot of people out there who are like, they care about democracy. See, they said
That's
it,
true.
and then they see all these problems.
See,
Maybe
people
they're
like that
vote-
shouldn't be allowed to vote.
But this is a wake up call for them.
It's an
and then they
IQ
go.
test.
Some of them do
Ideally.
wake up on that. They go, "Holy shit! What? Like all this stuff happened. You claim you care, but you're showing that you don't care." And and it's maybe it's a small margin of people who wake up on that. But I'm fucking glad that they do. Like I'm thankful for every one person who goes, "Wait a minute," for the first time. Like, yes, do that more. But I mean, like. I know a lot of libertarians are like, oh, if you convince one person, that's good enough. Every person you convince, that's a good thing. So to me, I do value that. Sure. I mean, I know it doesn't mean a lot in the now, but it can count in the long run.
Yeah, and the younger they are when you convince them, the better.
Yes, true.
Yeah. No, there's definitely, and there has been some I think there has been some awareness of the population has looked and said, democracy dies in the darkness, and then went, oh, you're the darkness.
One of the biggest responses to people claiming that Maricopa's election wasn't on the up and up is that the two guys mostly in charge of the Maricopa County election are Lil Bill Gates, as he's fondly called. Not so fondly. His name is literally Bill Gates. Yeah. So he's a lot of people call him Lil Bill Gates. And Stephen Richard, and they're Republicans. But they're Republicans that I've heard from several people started an anti-Trump super PAC. So they're not exactly like they're there's that schism right now in the Republican Party.
Right, they're uniparty Republicans. They're not outsiders. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
They're establishment. They're the oldest.
So they would be anti-Carrie Lake automatically. So yeah. So I'm like, that's not much of a disapproval of the problem.
Don't worry, they're from the Republican Party, the part of the Republican Party that likes Democrats.
Yes.
Okay.
That likes the establishment. So I don't trust them, certainly.
Like the Lincoln Republicans.
Yeah.
Let's do a couple super chats. One is just Richard Pett says, "Don't forget Canada, Carter."
Did you read the one?
I don't even know what that means, other than that Canada is very forgettable, Richard. I know you're in Canada, but
I think that was when we were talking about whether or not you could question an election, like where you could or could not question an election.
Can you question in Canada? I assume Justin Trudeau has something to say about that.
Yeah, I think this is one we didn't pull up.
I pulled it up. I just didn't say it out loud.
He didn't say it out loud.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Beverly. You're very excited about this one.
I don't know. I just didn't know. I saw you pull it up, and I didn't think. But I didn't think you read it.
You're very helpful.
Sounds like you at the Sharpie end of the stick.
Yes.
But
I did feel that way.
Francis Montgomery says, "Hi everyone. How can the ESG stakeholder economic system be successful? To me, it seems like that the ESG system is doomed to fail." I've actually thought about this question. No, I've thought about this question because you hear people, mainstream people that are relatively intelligent, they seem to be bought into this idea that ESG is the smart economic move, which is patently, it's observably ridiculous, right? Because if it were the smart economic move, you wouldn't need it because there's already economic metrics. If it was really about the bottom line, you wouldn't need ESG metrics because it would be about the bottom line. So but they've introduced these, and they claim that, well, in the long run, this will be good for profits as well. And I think there is a scenario in which, at least in the medium term, I mean, look, in the very long term, obviously the whole thing falls apart, but so does our fiat currency system and a whole bunch of other stuff. But in the medium term, the what I think mainstream would call long term, in their viewpoint, there's a scenario in which ESG makes economic sense, and that scenario is the World Economic Forum agenda gets pushed into governments, and governments start mandating ESG type compliance, like laws that you won't be compliant with unless you've already adopted ESG. And so therefore, companies who are ahead of the curve and pre-compliant will have a leg up on companies who get caught unawares of the leftist commie takeover, right? So I think all of that entire argument about ESG is premised on the idea that the World Economic Forum is not that whole effort will be successful because it's inevitable, right? It's similar to how Marxists viewed the demise of capitalism and the eventuality of communism, right? Earlier Marxists didn't feel like they needed to push it necessarily because they felt like it was inevitable. Like this was, capitalism will inevitably collapse into Marxism. Now, that didn't happen, so they had to change and, turn this into, focus on race wars and come up with critical theory and do a whole bunch of other stuff to make, to try and kill the West. But it didn't happen on its own in the way that they thought. But they did for a while view it as kind of inevitable. And I think that's how ESG people view this. Like the government will inevitably become this giant one world government plutocracy that measures your carbon output and penalizes you for it and blah, 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 blah. And if that's the case, well, you better hightail it and get on the bandwagon now so you don't get left in the dust later. I hope that makes sense.
I know that like Vivek Ramaswamy always felt like ESG was a bubble. He argued that, and that it would pop, which means that it has a lot shorter lifespan than you and the WEF believe.
I'm saying what they believe, not necessarily what I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like I think, like I don't know. I think it could go either way. Like that it could pop relatively quickly.
Cry about it.
It just won't stop.
No, it's very upsetting, Beverly.
I know, but yeah, it's just allergies and the corrosive of.
But if the WEF falls apart, who will introduce children to BDSM?
It's a good question.
And where will the adrenochrome supply come from?
These
are important questions.
Like I feel like they think they can get their collectivist agenda done through propaganda and like slowly boiling the frog in the pot through ESG and like digital currency and shit like that. The problem is that they can only do that if they have an absolute stranglehold on speech, which is literally impossible. Like even in China now, there's all these protests going on. So it's like, yeah, you can't even get it done in the most controlling of environments. So to me, I'm sort of like, I don't know that you can get that done because there's going to be people talking about how shitty it is and how awful what you are offering them is. And there are always people who have this attitude of leave me alone. That's all they want. That's like their number one goal is just stay the hell out of my life. And like, the thing is though, is that like those people will exist and they exist the world over, and they either will move to a place that gives them the opportunity to be left alone, or they get enough of them together in one place that they basically go, no, not here. And like, I think there is enough of people in the United States to say, no, not here. but maybe not enough to keep the United States intact while saying no, not here, meaning national divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been my theory for a while, is like, yeah, this is the highest concentration of liberty-minded people. It's the largest number of liberty-minded people, but it's not enough to save Washington. And if you're about principles and not a tribalist, what the fuck do you care about Washington? Who cares? Like, who cares? We don't need Washington. We just need a spot. It doesn't matter where the spot is. We need a spot of liberty. That's what matters. And like, whether the boundaries are the particular boundaries they are now is not really.
Of liberty.
Yeah, it's very intellectual. It's kind of thinky talk, Beverly. Can you follow along?
No, I just think that's a great name for something, like wherever that place is, though. It's just called
that's the spot of liberty.
Is liberty spot
maybe
better?
like they do, you know how the cities are passing, they're making little like drug, like not I'm saying drug free zones, but like drug law free zones, like lawful, you can do whatever you want with drugs.
Drug
maybe
safe harbor.
Maybe we'll have like liberty spots. Like like a city can pass, okay, on these 4 blocks in this area, it's libertarian utopia. So if you stay in there, you can do whatever you want.
Chad. Chop.
It was Chaz, and that I don't think that was exactly the same kind of liberty we were wanting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did Frances Montgomery say? She responded to this. It could be a he. I'm sorry if I'm misgendering.
That's true. Frances is either way.
Could be, yeah. What isn't Frances is such a great name to have in 2022 because
it is.
Oh yeah,
look at the options. You don't even have to change your name. I agree with you, Carter. The only way ESG can be successful is through government enforcement. Yeah, but they're getting there. They're good at government enforcement, especially in democracies where government enforcement largely means herd management, right? Because it's not like you have to be particularly good at government. You just have to be good at herd management. And if you can do that, then you're good. I'm non-binary. Oh, does that mean you have to change your name, or is Francis a binary name, or does it not work for the non-binary?
I think it was perfect for non-binary.
It works. Okay, good.
Yeah. Like me, Alex.
Yeah.
And I love it too, because everyone's like, well, why don't you just go by your full first name? And I'm like, what full first name? Alex is my full first name. Legally.
Our friend Beverly is unisex. It's been listed on like baby names as unisex. What?
Maybe like a really long time ago.
Yeah.
Beverly was a male name. Like Ashley and Whitney.
But like that might
when
still
was
happen
Beverly?
now.
Was Beverly ever a male name?
I don't know. That's just what those lists said.
I don't think so.
I mean, I think they can be surnames. I've never heard of it as a male name.
Yeah. What are Leslie is a male name sometimes.
Leslie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ashley. Lauren. I've heard Lauren's.
Lauren. Tyler. Taylor. I've heard both sexes.
Not Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can be the first. Get on it.
Oh, yeah. You identify.
All right. You didn't bring any news. You don't want to talk about anything, Beverly, right?
I don't know. I just know the thing that everyone's talking about has just been that Kanye stuff, but I don't know.
Oh man, I ended up writing. I meant to write like a 100 or 200 word blurb for the abstract yesterday, and I ended up writing an article because I watched the thing with Alex Jones and.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's so surreal. Like I have a soft spot in my heart for Alex Jones because I don't think he's actually. I think he means well, and like he doesn't. I think he sometimes gets. I don't agree with him, but all the time. But I don't have a huge problem with Alex Jones, and I don't like people who said, "Oh, he's exploiting children for." Blah, blah. Like I don't think that's the case. I think he just really thought.
I thought he
I don't trust
believed
governments, and I think it's probably a red. Like I think he believed that, right?
Didn't he change
which
his
is,
mind too, though, when he saw that, like, didn't he say he was wrong? I thought he
I think
had.
so, yeah.
So,
Yeah. So anyway, it's weird to watch an Alex Jones video where Alex is the one looking uncomfortable, like he's surrounded by insane people.
I've heard, yeah.
It's really cool. He's like, oh, all right. There's
I
times where
love-
he's like, he'll lean back and go, well, I don't agree with that. But
I laughed so hard. I watched one clip where he's talking about Hitler and Ye interrupts him with that 3-word comment, and then Alex Jones like pauses because it doesn't like, and he's like, "We're gonna get to that," and I was,
yeah.
I laughed so hard at that because I was like, he is clearly like, I don't know what to do about this.
Yeah. No, the poor guy, it was it was tough. And he's like trying to bring information in, like, my grandparents were in World War II and blah blah blah. He like and like here's the thing about Alex Jones. He is like a treasure trove of information. He knows a lot of stuff. He like actually studies things. And granted, he jumps to conclusions I wouldn't jump to, but he like has a lot of information in his brain. And Kanye's like, I just heard about Benjamin Netanyahu 2 weeks ago, and like it's like, and Jones is trying to like, actually I've studied this, and but like he didn't have time to even say anything. All right, we should probably wrap up anyway. Alex has to go. It's been an hour. We're trying to keep the show to an hour, so I think we're doing pretty good if we end. Beverly, do you have any words you want to tell people? Or are you just here for, are you just eye candy for this show?
I'm just
annoying.
But yeah, the biggest thing is just to annoy you. Yeah, I don't know what the direction you're trying to go with it, but I know if I'm here, I'm not going to be very serious when I'm on. Also, I'm really tired, so it's probably going to not help anything either.
I'm doing the club.
I'm just like,
yeah,
trying to stay awake. But I don't know. It's December. It's Christmas time. December. So
tomorrow you can watch the World Cup game. No, you don't care?
Okay. I was telling Alex yesterday too about, because I'm in fantasy football, and I'm and the ginger sent me a text, like a screenshot of it, and he said like the asterisk by my name means that that you clinched playoffs, and I said, and I responded like, ha ha ha, and clinched playoffs means I'm for sure in them, and he was just like, fucking yeah, that's what that means. He's just so mad at me because I'm winning the league right now. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
But you don't know what you're doing. Someone in chat says you look like you're the wife from the Morticia is the name, by the way, the wife from the Addams Family.
It is.
My daughter wanted to watch the Wednesday
someone,
series.
As if you don't know who Johnny Boy Quickdraw is. Someone.
Well, I didn't actually read the name. I
read
just
it. Yeah. I figured. Wednesday. Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I saw that out.
We both voted that it was like the plot. No, we watched it. The plot was a C or B. It was like meh. The casting for Wednesday was good, but the casting for her parents was so bad that it like
don't even show.
They're really, really bad.
Isn't it Daryl Hannah and
no,
Guzman?
it's Catherine Zeta-Jones for Morticia.
Right.
I really like her and other stuff. She's just a horrible Morticia. And I don't know what happened, but I think she like fell into a vat of plastic surgery somewhere. And like, I don't know. She doesn't look like she did when I was growing up and had a crush on Catherine Zeta-Jones. So like, there we go. And then I don't remember the male actor's name who plays the father/husband. Crap, what's his name in the show?
I think it's Gomez.
Gomez. He's absolutely grotesque. He's like, Gomez in the show is like dark. They're all dark, but he's like suave and like kind of, he's like a dark debonair kind of guy. This guy is like a disgusting troll, and he plays it like a disgusting troll also. It's just it's horrible. The casting was really bad.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. And you're saying, so you really didn't like, you thought Morticia was gross, and then now Johnny Boy is comparing me to. So thanks, Johnny Boy.
No, the original Morticia was great. So
yeah. Well, I don't know who Johnny Boy's
original.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
know. Now I remember what I was thinking. Daryl Hannah is actually Morticia in the third Addams Family movie, which I've never seen.
Oh, really? Okay, I don't think I saw that. I just know the original black and white, and then I don't really.
Yeah,
remember
I never really
anything
watched.
else.
I like
the
Raul
movies and stuff
Julia.
later.
Yeah.
Oh, and Fred Armisen is he's actually a good cast. He
Who
is
he?
Uncle Fester.
Was he? I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
Him. No.
He's pretty good. Yeah, that
What?
was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so they did a good job with like Uncle Fester and Wednesday casting wise, and they brought back Christina Ricci, who was Wednesday in one of the movies, one of the early movies. She has a role, but the parental casting was a real turnoff.
Okay. Well, I am planning on watching it, but because it's December, I'm just only doing Christmas themed things this month, so it's gonna have to wait. Is out.
Yeah, we'll celebrate with our Nawa. Germany is out. That is good, and Belgium's out. And who else was out? There was another big name that was out. Very exciting stuff. I wore my Brazil shirt today, but they lost. So. But it doesn't matter. They still won their group. Then it was like the B team that played. They didn't care.
My eyes glazed over because we started talking.
I know. Yeah.
No, I usually do sports. I'm not a sports guy, but I do watch the World Cup every 4 years, and I grew up playing soccer.
It's weird that you're the one talking more about.
I know. I grew up playing soccer. One of my high school soccer team, which I was not on all 4 years, so I don't get credit for this, but I was on at the beginning and then did track and ran instead. But we were ranked number 1 in the nation for like all 4 years that I was in high school. Like we were super soccer heavy. Soccer was more important than football at our high school. It was very odd for the 80s. So I grew up watching I grew up watching German football or soccer on Thursday nights, and like it's the one sport that I if I had time, I'd probably watch Premiership and other stuff, but I don't. I only watch the World Cup basically. So, all right, no one cares. Let's go. I will see you all later. Thank you for joining. And I don't really know what we're doing with this narrative dissonance, but it was fun, and we'll do it again next Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
Later, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. This production was made possible through the generous support of our members. To join our community, visit unsafespace.com. Unsafe Space is an online publication for individualists interested in subverting authoritarianism and ushering in the next enlightenment. For biting analysis and nourishing composition, or to sign up for our weekly news brief, The Abstract, visit unsafespace.com. Thanks for joining us today.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been authorized for distribution on Apple devices. The following co-conspirators are hereby uninvited to Klaus Schwab's Winter Solstice Party. Please be advised that CBS News has paused activity on Unsafe Space while it continues to assess security. Central bank digital currency is a safe and secure way to protect you from Sam Bankman-Fried. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Science, scientific, and scientifically are registered trademarks of the World Economic Forum. Unauthorized use is prohibited. Computer voice courtesy. Never mind, that last line is misinformation. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.